Sad news for you, it's not just the stock market anymore. US 10-year bond yields are now higher than Greece and Italy. That's like hydrogen bomb. Are they really higher than Greece? Holy f***ing sh**. We're at nearly 4.5. Oh my god. Is it worse than yesterday? Yeah, by 0.1%, which is not nothing. What does this mean? Okay, I'm trying to get better at explaining this, okay? There's a more or less finite amount of money that circulates in the United States in the form of the investment into our assets. The investments are more or less divvied up between investments in the US government, the Treasury, in the purchasing of bonds, or in the private stock market, right? Money has to go somewhere. People move money around to the places where they think it'll make the most. People move money into the stock market when they think the stock market will make a high return. People move money out of the stock market and into bonds when they think the stock market is trending downward, but the government's a safe bet. Right now, the stock market is trending downward and people are pulling out of bonds. The higher the yield goes, they're trying to incentivize more people to buy bonds, so that means fewer people are buying bonds. This is how the government gets... This is how the government borrows money, by selling its debt. If the yield goes up, people are not buying that debt, but people are also not putting their money in the stock market right now. For the most part, on average. If we go back to a 6-month view, you can see that right around here, the bond yields were actually higher. So you might think, okay, so why is it such a big deal that they're going up right here, right? Well, the difference is people were investing heavily in the stock market back around here because this was after Trump's inauguration, or sorry, after his election, but before his inauguration. This was the honeymoon period of time, this chunk right here, where people were like, yes, Trump won, we can say retard again, yes! And all of the, wolves on Wall Street hogs started dumping money into the market because they expected it to go to the moon. So you would expect bond yields to go up during this time, right? But this chunk right here, this chunk is rising while people are pulling money out of the market. That's very different. Does everyone understand? I've only just recently learned about this myself. I'm not a big econ guy, but I did some in-depth investigation, by which I mean I went on Twitter and I asked people talking about it, hey, what do you mean? Tell me what you mean. Can you tell me what you mean? What do you mean by that? And then they told me what they meant. Incidentally, this is like the best way to learn about things. Current yields, US government 10-year, 4.51%. German 10-year, 2.57%. Canadian 10-year, 3.25%. Greek 10-year, 3.49%. Italy 10-year, 3.81%. Jesus Christ. So the implication here is that right now, of these 5 countries, people find the US government's bonds the least appealing. Even though the economy is crashing around the world, still good for accelerationists. The potential long-term ramifications of this, if this is what people think it is, are very, 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 very bad. People are also wondering whether or not there's foreign involvement, right? Whether or not foreign countries are dumping their bonds, cashing them in, pulling the money out of the government. There's no proof so far that it's happening, but people suspect China or Japan might be. I don't know if they are. Eventually that would come to light. Yeesh. What does this mean for Switch 2 prices? Well, on the plus side, well, hold on. There is good news here. There is good news here. Everyone hold on. On the plus side, our currency is going down in value rapidly, which is great for exports. So if we start manufacturing the Switch here and then sell it to other countries, that'll be better for us. But if they're made in Vietnam and sold here, that's really bad, actually. Yeah, believe it or not, since the beginning of the year, the value of the dollar versus the euro has dropped by nearly 10%. Yeah, 10. It's something like 8.9, I think. Let me check. Since the beginning of the year. It's really bad. Look at that. If we go back to the beginning of the year right here, 0.97. A dollar was worth 0.97 euros. Now a dollar is worth 0.88 euros. See, on the other end of this gigantic spike downward right here. So relative to the euro, the dollar has dropped about 10% of its value in 3.5 months. Well, 3.5 months. So, yeah. Why would Biden do this? I don't know. Now, Trump has explicitly said he wants a weak dollar. So this is in line with his aims. The New York Fed expects GDP growth now to be below 1% and boost inflation as high as 4%. Well, that's pretty cool. We did recently get Hey, Vosh, one detail about bonds, nobody can pull their money out. I'm sorry, to be clear, what I mean is not renew the bonds at auction. When they hold bonds, what I mean, like they hold the bonds, they don't rebuy them at auction. They allow their bonds to depreciate, you know. You can pull your money out of the government in aggregate. Why does Trump want a weaker dollar? Part of it maybe because he's a envoy of chaos, and part of it I think is because he wants to turn America into a manufacturing haven. You got to understand, a lot of this really is down to his pathology, right? I think a big part of it is that he and the other oligarchs want to turn America into Russia, right? They don't really care about the health of the country. They care about their wealth, and it's easier to exploit an undemocratic country. But also, part of it is just that Trump is a stubborn, stupid egomaniac, and he grew up during America's economic boom. Again, Trump was born in 1946. When Trump was a young man, America was the global manufacturing powerhouse. He saw everything. He saw our post World War II boom. He saw the Rust Belt decay. He saw everything. He saw NAFTA. He saw manufacturing get moved to Mexico and then to China. He saw all of it. And he didn't understand any of it. He was just doing reality TV game show, whatever the fucks, you know? I think he understands that part of the reason why America is no longer a manufacturing powerhouse is because of our overvalued currency, which is true. It's not necessarily a bad thing for us not to be the prime manufacturer of the world, but, you know. So it's also possible that he genuinely thinks like that's how you return to the glory days. Who knows? Who knows how much of it he's aware of? I don't know. I'm not psychic. So he wants the citizens to hurt and hate him because Masterful Gambit, sir? I feel like I gave a more compelling explanation than that, but that's okay. Do you think there's any veracity to those theories with Peter Thiel and breaking America into techno-fascist city-states? Yeah, absolutely. Guys, the powers that be have literally always wanted that for all of human history. You can go back to any era of human history, and you will find, like, well-educated aristocrats being like, I think society would be run better if I controlled this province. I and none other. And they'll all have to call me king. This happens every century. It keeps happening over and over. We have to keep swatting them back down. Over and over and over again. I'm pretty sure that's why the Holy Roman Empire was the way it was. Like, yeah, the Silicon Valley, tech fascists are just the modern version of that. They're not smart enough to understand that they're part of the historical cycle. You know what I mean? Like, all the brain power in the world to, I don't know, engage in venture capital shenanigans, but none of it to understand where you are in the grand, dialectical exchange. Well, while we're here giving a nice econ roundup, let's go over the other big numbers. Recent inflation report eased all the way down to 2.4%, which is pretty spectacular, to be honest. It was lower than people expected. Though, the most compelling explanation that I've seen for the decrease in inflation, which is, again, for March, not April, this is before the tariffs kicked off. We're talking about before the tariffs, is that people are anxious about the economy and they're not spending. Because people aren't spending, corporations can't really price up their products, you know? The supply-demand curve is being scaled back in accordance with lowered consumer demand, which is what a recession is. So we don't have the GDP numbers. We have the inflation rate estimated for that month, which seems to indicate greater consumer anxiety. So that's cool. Oh, it says right there the 12-month rate. Whenever you read about the inflation rate in a month, they're talking about the annual rate extrapolated from that month. A 2.4% in March doesn't mean that prices rose that much in March. They're estimating that over the year at those rates, it would increase by that much. Yeah, the rolling 12-month average as it moves along. Unless you're talking about Brazil for some reason, or Turkey or Argentina, where it's actually minute by minute. Okay. Oil prices by barrel. We're doing the econ roundup, okay? Because I feel like I've been doing a bad job of, like, consolidating all of this. All right, well, oil could be doing better. Remember, low oil prices, typically, if oil prices spike downward, that means that the businesses that buy oil do not expect to need as much, which indicates a recessionary influence, right? A recessionary indicator, because they don't think they're going to need to use it to trade, you know? Oil prices went down, of course, during COVID, most famously. Right now, WTI crude is at 61.5, which is a marginal improvement from where it was yesterday. But on the whole, they're still pretty goddamn low. I think it's $60 a barrel for crude. My understanding is that this is around the point where it's difficult to start any more offshore fracking, or oh, sorry, offshore drilling. Like, this is a price point where you can't economically justify fracking, offshore drilling, or other more expensive ways. It's pretty expensive to do offshore drilling or fracking. Like, you got to set up a lot of infrastructure. I was doing some Wikipedia kung fu on that last night, and it's pretty damn complicated. I mean, I knew it was complicated, I guess, just like reconciling with the extent to which it is, you know? More green energy then? I wouldn't expect that. Isn't this generally also the point where profits become really, really narrow? Yeah, well, it definitely does help that OPEC has been putting out a lot lately in terms of their oil production. Just keep in mind, and we talked about this yesterday, but oil production is an inelastic supply. Once you open up an oil well, that oil's coming whether or not you want it to. Whether or not price goes up or down, it's not like a factory where you can say, hey, you know, people aren't buying as much of this widget. Make less of this widget. That way, we're not overproducing it. Once you open up the oil tap, the oil comes, and it's very expensive to shut it down and then reopen it later. People lose jobs. It's a huge hassle. So for the most part, you keep those wells running no matter what. I miss financial advisor suit, Bosch. Yeah, are people taking me less seriously now because I'm wearing a t-shirt rather than a suit? Is the effect that pronounced? Yes. Damn. Do you even own a suit? Have you been watching my... Well, actually, you're not incorrect. That wasn't a suit. That was a sport jacket. Whatever. Anyway, yes. Basically, if oil prices get too low, it's a large negative indicator. Okay, final econ roundup. How's the market doing? I actually don't know. I haven't checked today. Holding steady, I assume. Up 1.6%. Okay. Holding steady in the grand pattern of things, I guess. The S&P 500 up 1.66%. But it's been fluctuating multiple points every day. So, you know, whatever. We see we have the big crash following the reciprocal tariffs, and then the big up when he paused them, and we've been wiggling since. How's CNN's Fear and Greed? Probably up to like a 10? A 14! People are only feeling moderate amounts of extreme fear. That's nice. Oh, it was 15 a second ago? Now it's 15. This index is kind of the same as VIX? Yes. Crisis averted, we are so back. Like I've said a million times before, but I have to keep repeating it, look at the stock market during any period of time that we now recognize in retrospect as a crash. Look at 2020, look at 2008, look at 1987, look at, 1931 or whatever. I always forget which year the Great Depression big crash was. I don't know why. It should be pretty evident, I feel like I should remember that. It's pretty important. 1929? Okay, yeah, I always blank on that. There was a long period of volatility back then, a long period of volatility. Anyway, you look back at any of those historical crashes, and there's always a ton of fluctuation because everyone's trying to, outsmart the market, make a bunch of money on the rebound. What do they call that? A dead cat bounce? The idea that, like, if you drop a dead cat from high up, it'll bounce. What's with our euphemisms? Why do we say that? And why are we so mean to cats? Curiosity killed the cat? No, it didn't. Mostly makes my cats, like, sniff each other's butts, which is, like, gross, but, they're cats. Even a dead cat would bounce when dropped from a great height. Yeah, just like, why are we mean to cats? How would a cat bounce? I don't know, through, like, the elasticity of its dead body. It's kind of fucked up. By the way, what does many ways to skin a cat mean? That's what I mean! Why are we so fucking mean to cats? What did cats do? Cats have been useful to us. They followed our armies around and ate up the dead, or they killed the rats during plague times. They would go after rats and eat them, so the rats wouldn't get to us and the fleas on the rats wouldn't spread the bubonic plague. I know dogs historically have been considered more useful to us, and dogs will do basically anything we ask them to, but, like, cats are really cute because they keep sitting on my computer exhaust. That's true. Ruben keeps doing that when I play Total War. My computer's already belting out a bunch of heat, and then he'll sit and cover 2/3 of the vent on top of my PC, and it'll be like a wind turbine in there, but I can't remove him from it because I know he's having a blast, because he's basically having like a blow dryer. applied to his belly. But he doesn't like the blow dryer when I blow dry my hair in the morning, so okay, whatever. Because it's loud? Trust me, my computer is also loud when I'm playing Total War. I need your opinion on beavers. I mean, they're really cute, right? Like, they're kind of weird looking, but they're really cute.